This is Nick Baisley from FilmSnobbery.com, and I am here doing interviews for the Dances with Films Film Festival, their 16th annual, and I've got another great filmmaker here that I'm sitting with today. Who are you, sir?
My name is Jono Oliver, and I directed a film called Home. Wrote and directed.
Wrote and directed.
Yes.
That's the double threat. And what's Home about?
Ultimately it's about hope, it's about family, it's about a relationship between a father and his son. The specifics of the story takes place in a group home where a man's trying to move out of the group home and into his own apartment and rebuild his life.
It's just a dream.
It's not just a dream when you wake up fighting 3 staff members.
I used to be pretty messed up, but I'm not now.
Jack's gonna be leaving soon. How old are you?
Good luck, Jack.
Got an apartment. Really? Yeah, I looked it all up.
I know that they take care of you. I mean, you live there with others like you, and there's a staff that cooks your food and helps you with your laundry and brushes your teeth. I mean, whatever you need, right? I don't understand this sudden need to leave.
They're really okay with this?
I can live a normal life.
What you been up to? Thinking of getting back in the business again, like old times.
All I need you to do is to just sign the form. It says I'm good to go because I'm running out of time.
There's an illness running around in here. It's like cancer. It's like diabetes.
I feel like I'm telling you a secret.
You can't give up, okay? Not you.
Fantastic, and you're an East Coast filmmaker at the moment, and I like that. I'm from the East Coast. You know, you have the New York thing going. I love New York. I spend a lot of time in New York. I love filmmakers from New York. They always have a very unique vision on different topics and things that they choose. Did you guys also film in New York?
We did. We shot in Brooklyn last summer, about a year ago, and finished the film in January.
You know, a lot of people who shoot like in LA, you know, complain a lot about obviously things like, you know, if you're going to shoot on the street, you have to have certain permits of certain locations, you have to have permission, and it can get very costly to shoot out here, which is why a lot of people double things out in, you know, the desert, or they'll go, you know, wherever. How difficult is it to shoot in Brooklyn?
It's I mean, other than our own self-inflicted challenges by not having much of a budget, it was terrific. I mean, the city's really supportive of filmmakers, and I have a great relationship with the mayor's office and Commissioner Catherine Oliver, no relation, but she was great and her team was great, and you know, they're good with permits and support. It's a little different here. I've worked as an AD for a long time, and I know that, like for example, here, if you want to close off a street, you have to pay for the police and everything. There, they give it to you. So we had a couple days where we needed their help, and yeah, it's terrific. It's easy, and there's a great infrastructure and a great crew, and it's easy to get equipment, and it was a treat.
Where did you find your cast and crew from? You know, obviously being a writer, that's one part of the job. Directing is something else. Did you have a producer to help you, or did you kind of just go out and get things yourself?
No, I think it's kind of probably a very typical independent filmmaker story, which is where, I mean, you're alone for, you know, the beginning of it, and obviously writing the script took a little bit of time. I spent about 6 months doing it, and then did some readings and kind of workshopped it and fine-tuned it. But then when it was done and I started handing it around to cast, it was terrific because people really responded to the story and wanted to help out and came on. knowing that there was no money in place and that the budget, when we did get, money, would be very low. But everyone just kind of played ball. So the cast I got, combination of people I'd worked with before as an AD, and then I had a great casting director who actually works here in LA, Edie Velasco, who did the breakdowns and sent stuff out to agents, to actors' agents, and they submitted, and then we had a kind of a lengthy, probably about month or 5-week process of getting people. I have a large cast, and it was kind of an ensemble piece. The people in the home were very important. But I got a terrific bunch of actors. Many people you'd recognize facially, not so much the names, but Benga Akanabi, who was in The Wire for many years, plays the lead. He was terrific. Tawny Cypress, you've seen before. James McDaniel, Joe Morton, Danny Hawk. A lot of people came on. KK Magi, who I'd worked with before. So a lot of people, a few parts I'd set up in the beginning. I knew they'd be in it, but then 90% of the cast we did through traditional casting. And as far as the crew went, I had a great producer, Daniela Barbosa, who I'd worked with before as AD. We were ADs together, and she was, when you do it for no money, it's hard, man. It's like, you don't just call people up and what's your rate, and they come in. It's more, you got to pitch it, and they have to read the script, and they have to want to do it for whatever reason they found. And because of the script and the way people responded to it, it made that part of the job relatively easy. And a lot of the story is about this group home is a mental illness facility, and so a lot of people came on because they have some connection with that, as so many people in this country and this world do, and because the script told the story of this man in kind of a respectful and positive way, it was actually really easy to get people coming on once the ball started rolling. People just came on.
That's fantastic to get that kind of support. It's wonderful. My question, so from the first draft of the script to the shooting script, what was the biggest thing that changed? You said you kind of did some retooling, you did a little bit of workshopping things. What is kind of the biggest thing that changed? Was it tone? Was it a character? Was it, what was it?
Well, there were a couple things. I've always been attracted to stories about people kind of on the fringe, and I didn't really think too much then about the future life of it, marketing-wise and stuff. Maybe I should have. But the goal was just making a movie that told the story of these people in the most realistic way possible. And also because it dealt with characters who suffer from mental illness. It's my early on, I realized that there are very few films that deal with this. And when you do see it, with the exception recently of Silver Linings Playbook, and you have to go back before that to like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Awakenings, people who have mental illness, they're either a psycho killer or a joke. And just have regular people who are suffering from this but trying to just rebuild their lives. So it's not the crux of the story, but it's something they're dealing with. You don't see. So a lot of the work I did on the script was trying to just hit that tone where they weren't the psycho killers and they weren't the jokes. But the movie, I also didn't want to be oppressive. And those of us who maybe don't suffer from things, sometimes it's hard to watch people going through something that's painful like that. So it took a lot of work, and I think we were very, very successful in coming up with a movie that, for lack of a better word, is fun, that you're in this world with people. And a lot of it was having this great cast in the group home where they laugh and they act like people that we all know. Like, I think everyone can watch this movie and relate on some level to what they're going through, whether it's the individual people who are like someone they know, or if it's the relationships or the situation they're going through. There's a strong father-son connection between Jack, our protagonist, and his kid, and him and his father, and then the group itself is like an extended family. So it was really, a lot of the work was just kind of fine-tuning. The story is simple. It's a guy who wants to move out of a group home and get his own apartment. Like, he wants to get an apartment. That's the story. Mm-hmm. So to try to find a way to make that compelling and make the obstacles real, and then make the tone of it something where you and me would sit there and go, I like this movie. Mm-hmm. That was the work, and it came in dialogue and the situations. And like I said, I feel like that is our biggest success, because when you watch the film, it's not oppressive, and it's filled with hope, and it has a lot of joy in it, and it's humanity. And even though people look at the log line, they're like, but when you watch it, the things that have been terrific, the thing that's been terrific about showing it is getting people sitting there once we get them into the theater, and they're sold, you know, and they love it. They literally laugh and cry, and that's been our victory, you know. It's been tough getting people in because they look at the guy with mental illness. I don't know, but when they see it, I think we convert them, which is great, and hopefully they look at the world a little differently in other ways as well. So.
Well, it's nice that you have a film that has a lot of subtle layers in it that, you know, depending on but it's dependent upon the audience's perception of the film. So you're not being didactic, or you're not, you know, beating someone over the head with one particular theme necessarily. You're almost leaving the audience to kind of figure out where they relate to the characters in the movie, or which character they are relating to, or situation, whether it's the family or the illness itself, or, you know, the situation of the protagonist. Did you have to do any sort of research into, you know, the mental illnesses that you were portraying to make sure there was any accuracy? And also what kind of made you want to make that kind of mental illness piece of the film kind of a part of the theme to it?
Well, to answer your second question first, my parents were both social workers, so I think deep in me, I've kind of always been aware of people who may be going through this, and you know, the reality is, you know, something like the numbers like one out of four Americans are somehow touched by it, but no one talks about it. There's a stigma attached to it, and so it's been amazing also having screenings and have people come up to me and said, you know, that guy was my brother. Literally last night we screened here at Dances with Films, and someone came up to me and said, that guy was my brother, and stuff he went through, and she's telling it to me with tears in her eyes, and she was grateful for just having the story come out, because you know, there's a connection that we make on that level. But like I said, it's just people who don't have anything to do with it, with mental illness, or haven't even really thought about it, may see something in the film that touches them on another level and enjoy it. Or they'll say, wow, I didn't know about that. You know, now I'm going to look at the guy who's like sitting in the subway peeing on himself because he's not on his medication differently, and not like it's his fault, but it's something that you really have to struggle with. So that's that. I'm sorry, the first part of the question was?
Oh, the first part of the question was the research aspect.
Yeah. I have a great person who I've known I had another story, a TV show that I had written, that I'd done a lot of research on, and that didn't happen, but I met someone who's a psychiatric nurse in New York when I was doing research for that, and she's kind of been a friend of mine for many years now, and so she was really great, and a lot of the stuff with the cast, when you see their portrayals, and like I said, the main thing was just to show them as human beings like you and me, and I think that's really what they look like, which is part of the goal of the movie. It's not to label people as this, that, and that. They live their lives, they have certain behaviors, they deal with certain things like we all do. But for them, the backstories for them was a real lengthy process of me and her sitting down and kind of going through each character. This is what they are suffering from, this is when they started, and there was this list, and then she talked to a lot of them directly about, well, this is what that would mean for you. And because when you have a great cast, you can kind of let them do it. You know, it wasn't me constantly kind of standing over them saying, now you got to do this and that and that. They really brought out, you know, from an acting character perspective, with a hint of whatever else was going on in their lives, they filled out these people that, you know, you write stuff on paper and you dream of it and you hope, and then to get a cast like this, like I said, no big names, some faces you'd recognize, but their performances have really touched people in a great way. So it's exciting for me to try to get it out and try to get more people seeing it.
Was it important for you at all to, obviously being from New York, was it important for you to try to get this to screen in Los Angeles, both for obviously the broader exposure that it would bring the film, but also the kind of the expanded audience and any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I made this movie. People make movies for different reasons, and this is a naive and silly thing to say, but I was at the Cannes market a couple weeks ago to try to get distribution for this film, which I'm still working on. But you know, you talk to people who are distributors, and it's just, let's make money like that. And this is like it's naive, going, yeah, of course, a lot of people are going to watch this and go, well, of course, why else do you make a movie? Because a lot of people say, what can we make that'll sell and we'll make a few $1 million opening weekend or whatever it is. This was completely made to tell a story, to try to touch people and have them sit there. I mean, honestly, if I could have people see it for free, I'd be fine with that. I mean, you know, I want to pay back my investors, and they'll probably cringe when they hear me say this, but you know, we need to recoup what we spent. But it was never, you know, people make movies for different reasons, and part of the beauty of Dances with Films is that it seems like it's one of the few remaining larger, true independent film festivals that try to promote films that are there to tell a story and entertain people and maybe get them to think about something or ask questions. And that's like it's like you feel like a dinosaur even saying that. I feel like kind of stupid and naive, especially sitting here in Hollywood, because, you know, festivals here, we had this conversation earlier before we just started this, it's all about the big stars and the tentpole stuff in a lot of festivals that are going to come out anyway. You know, I mean, I was at Sundance this past year, and even stuff like documentaries. It's like, you know, HBO, who I love, but they had 6 documentaries in Sundance. It's like, well, they're already going to come out. So I don't quite get, you know, I understand festivals want stuff that's good, but there's a lot of people making good stuff that maybe is kind of a little outside of the box. It pushes the envelope. It would be nice to be able to feature those. Dances with Films is doing that. It would be great if more festivals did, because then I think it changes the whole rules of the game for what people want to see and what people think they should see.
It puts the decision of the content back in the audience's hands versus back into the hands of the sponsors, basically. And you know, plus you also get the other side of that too, which is, you know, occasionally you'll get the festival programmers or the festival directors who have the vested interest in, like, well, I'm going to program like 6 of the movies that I either produced or was in, or friends of mine were in, into the festival. And believe me, I say that because I've seen it. And it's sad. It's a completely, the festival world and the expectations that I think filmmakers have in the industry, both for festivals and for the careers and the past and stuff like that. We just had a filmmaker that we were interviewing who, you know, talked a lot about, you know, actors and when, you know, managing their expectations when they first come to Hollywood to kind of get into the business. And I think that filmmakers, especially filmmakers who don't have an opportunity to see it firsthand here, where the more of the industry is, it's kind of a eye-opening experience, you know. And I mean, New York's got a fantastic industry, but I almost feel like there's a separation of church and state between LA and New York, and it's like you could do a bunch of work in New York, but, you know, it doesn't count for LA. You know what I mean? Almost. You know, would you know, has moving to LA to continue doing more, to pursue more work, has it ever been a thought in your head?
I used to live here. I lived here for about 10 years. But I'm in New York now, and I have 2 kids there, and so I'm not leaving anytime soon. But you know, like I said, because, and this movie's been a lot of work. It took a lot of work to get here, and then the reality that I'm encountering now is that there's a lot more work to get more people to see it, because without the big stars and without kind of a hooky, catchy type, without being a genre film, without being a horror movie or stuff that kind of instantly kind of seems to go regardless of the quality, it's tough. It's a drama. It's a beautifully mixed, racially cast, but our lead is African American, so it's a drama. Mental illness is a theme. I got a black star, and, you know, I mean, just calling it like I see it, it's a tough sell, and I get that. So now it's a lot of work to get other people to see it. If I wanted to, my next film, and I feel I feel crazy saying this, but it's going to be similar. You know, I've had people at the Cannes Market, people are like, well, just make sure your next, I swear to God, people would say to me, make sure your next film has a more different colors in the cast.
They're really saying is, give me a white guy. Like, for the love of God, give me a white guy.
Pretty much. Yeah. And I'm not, and I might if that's what the story is, but the stories I'm drawn to, and I love Brooklyn, and the reason I wanted to shoot this in New York and Brooklyn is because of the different people, and because, you know, that's what my world is, and that's what most people's world is. So
not mine. No, it's an all white world to me. No, I'm kidding.
But to answer your question about LA, it's really, you know, if my goal was to come out and let me make a big movie and make a lot of money, and this is where, yeah, maybe. But I think I can do what I've been doing there, and I have the support. You know, I mean, I couldn't have made home here because I don't have. I mean, I could have gotten cast, I'm sure, but it would have been different, and the story would have been different, and I wouldn't have had the crew that I got, because a lot of people came through, and I'll forever be grateful to the people who came in. I mean, I had people come in, you know, great seasoned New York film crew people come in on like days off and give me like a day of Steadicam for free, or a woman who I've known for a long time came in to dolly grip for me for a day because my guys, weren't great on it. But everyone who was there, I mean, they worked we had a 20-day shoot. They were there every day. I mean, most days were 10 or 12 hours, but we had a couple longer ones. And people made nothing, but they either knew me or they just loved the story, or they knew my producers, they knew someone else. And, I couldn't have done that here. And I feel like the next one, I want to repay them by hopefully doing it again in New York, but hopefully giving them a little more this time and kind of starting to build something. So yeah, LA is it's easier in a lot of ways because this is the industry, but the stories I want to tell, I don't know, I want to stay in New York.
I think that, also the kind of stories that you're trying to tell, it's almost like a hazing process per se, where, if you can kind of, if you can prove that you can create dynamic stories with interesting and unique characters that are racially mixed, or that have, that aren't vanilla, so to speak. I think that, and then if you can prove even better that you can market and sell that to an audience. I hate to say that in such a more clinical term, and but at the end of the day, I mean, spreading this out to an audience, whether you're giving it away for free, whether or not there's a sell aspect to that. If you could do that, and I think at that point, and you could do it, I think that making the next film, it makes it a little bit easier. I mean, are you approaching special interest groups like that deal with mental illnesses, or are you looking to work with other people to help bring that film out to those audiences?
Yes, that's part of it, but honestly, and I wanted to go back, the makeup of the cast it's all colors of the spectrum, and that's just that's my world. But
it's incidental more than anything.
Exactly, and when you see the film, I mean, part of what I want to do as a filmmaker is present people as people, and I think we really accomplished a lot here. Like, I don't think by the end of this movie you look at them. A lot of what I like playing with in stories are your perceptions, and there are a lot of instances in this film, for example, where you see someone and you go, okay, that's that guy, and then they're not. And it's like a simple thing to say, but I think a lot of times, especially in films, you see them and that's who they are. It's like the bad guy's the bad guy, the good guy's the good guy, maybe with a hint of bad. And there's not a lot of complexity to it. And so with respect to race, social position, what they do for a career, and even their mental state, there's a lot of complexity in this film. And so when you see someone and you think, I love when an audience looks at it and I go, okay, and then it twists, and then you go, oh, I was wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have judged based on what I thought they were at the first, in the first place. So I forget what how you started that question, but
I was saying,
yeah. So we're working on going out to groups who can maybe appreciate it in that way, but also just regular people. I mean, that's my challenge, is to get film goers, I should say, who like independent film, to look past what they think this movie is and sit there for 2 hours, because everyone who's done that so far has not been disappointed. People really like it, and that's a big challenge. It's like, in a lot of ways, I don't want to say it's easy, but I know we have a built-in audience of people who can relate to this world, and I know that we've gotten quotes from people who've seen it, who can't speak highly enough about it in that world. But I've also gotten those from people who didn't know anything about this world, who don't have a connection with this world, who just look at it as, as a movie about home and hope and family. And that's actually a bigger challenge, because when there's a guy who came to the movie last night who told me afterwards, he said, I love the movie. He said, but I'll be honest with you, because we were talking about marketing. And he said, had I known it was about a guy who's going through suffering from illness, I wouldn't have come. And he was being completely honest, and I appreciate it, because it's, we all have problems in our lives, and a lot of times we go to films to escape, and you want to get the big, popcorn blockbuster, whatever it is, Superman or Batman. Like, I get that. Sure. Like, you want to be in that world, and it's sexy and cool, and so having people come to a movie that seems like it's about something that's going to kind of like, really, really suffocate you for 2 hours, it's a tough sell. But when people come, they don't feel that. I mean, I said before, there's so much fun and hope and humor and life in this film, because it's about just people, and it's about what we all want to experience as people, and how we want to live our lives as people, that it kind of, it just opens it up, you know, above and beyond the specifics of it. So.
Fantastic. Now, I want to thank you for coming in and having a chat with us about this, because I think that it's an interesting concept for a movie. I love the layers that you have of these characters and the mix of the characters, the reality of the characters, ostensibly. And I respect that you're making movies outside of the system and outside of LA, and proving that you can make a movie, anywhere, really, basically. Not that people aren't making movies in Brooklyn and New York and all that anyway, but, it's fantastic that you got these people so passionately behind you too, and I could tell that you're really passionate. You're a storyteller, and I think that people are drawn to that.
And listen, making it is hard, but as I'm now realizing, getting people to come see it is maybe a little harder. So if your viewers, and I know you got a lot of them, and you guys have a great thing going here, if they can at least look into it, I know they wouldn't be disappointed. It's a good film.
Go see Home, people. I appreciate it, and thank you again, Jono, for being here.
Thanks a lot.
We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.